In this video, I'm going to walk you through downloading, installing, and configuring esxDOS Explorer. I'm going to walk through the process of setting up esxDOS Explorer to work with Fuse and set up Fuse to work with esxDOS, and then go through the basics of using esxDOS Explorer to copy files to and from your physical PC to the virtual media that you will use in Fuse or any other emulator for that matter. But for now, I'm going to focus on Fuse, so let's get going. So I've already got esxDOS Explorer in my library, so I'm going to go ahead and click download. And once I've downloaded, I'm going to click on install. I'm just going to double click it from here. So Windows is going to say that it's protected because Microsoft doesn't know about my little program. It doesn't really make it onto their radar. Surprise, surprise. So I'm just going to click more info, and then I'm going to click run anywhere. And then I'm going to click next. I'm going to keep the defaults. I'm going to install it on my C drive. And I'm just going to install it just for me. And then I'm going to click next. In a moment, I should get something popping up asking me to confirm that I want to install. Here we go. So click yes, and then it's installed. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. I can close this now. And I'm going to look here, and you should see it pop up in here somewhere. I'm going to scroll down, look under notice up. There's esxDOS Explorer, and I'm going to fire it up for the first time. So you'll see down here at the bottom, it's already doing some things in the background. I previously had this installed before, so I've got some different settings on here which I'm going to walk through next. But essentially it's going to download all of the key files that you need based on your settings, some of which are mandatory. So if I look under options here, you'll see in here, remember last OpenDHDF file is going to remember the last virtual media file that you mounted next time you start the session. But these other things here, you'll see, beginning with automatically, I've said I want you to automatically install long file name browser by Bob Fossil, which is highly recommended. This next section is if you don't have divMMC, but divIDE. divIDE has less memory to play with, so therefore you would need to check this option to get the long file name browser to work. There's also a very simple little basic menu system that looks like that of the 128K Spectrum that I've written, and it's just thrown in there. If you want to use it, great. If you don't want to, that's fine too. I use it quite a bit. It has a built-in editor for me to edit my own menus, and I can chain menus together and organize my most commonly used tools. This option here is another tool by Bob Fossil, Fossimon, which is a memory monitor. I'm not going to mess with that at the moment, but in here, if I go into esxDOS preferences, you'll see by default it's going to download the latest version of esxDOS Explorer when we tell it to download. Otherwise, if we're targeting physical machines that are on earlier versions of esxDOS and you're tied to physical firmware on the device, you can select that too. On latest version, it's always going to look to the website and pull down whatever's the latest. Currently, that happens to be 0.8.9. So I'm just going to leave it on latest version for now. And then there are some Fossimon settings in here if you're installing Fossimon, just for completeness. You can essentially say that you want to use the default behavior when you press the NMI button on your device or on your emulator. You can tell it that you want it to trigger Fossimon, replacing whatever you've got as the current default. You can say that you only want FOSSIMON to be triggered when you hold down single shift and press the NMI button, or you can have it so that when you press the NMI button, you will get a menu to select between FOSSIMON and long file name browser. Again, both of these are third-party tools developed by Bob Fossil, a really great guy, very talented, and has done a lot for the esxDOS community. So thank you, Bob. So go back to here. We've gone through the options, and what we can do now is we can actually go to the esxDOS menu. We'll just say, you'll see here it says download latest version. See up here it says that the current version is 0.8.7, which is the last one I downloaded. But because I select in the options it says download latest version, I'm going to go to esxDOS, and then it's now saying download latest version. Had I selected a specific version over here, then this menu would say download version 0.8.7 or 0.8.6, whatever I selected, and that would be the default. So I'm going to download that from the website, and this has just got a warning about firmware, making sure your firmware on your device matches. And we're going to go into that a little bit more detail, specifically for Fuse users, where we have a wizard for doing that. So we will come back to that for now. But now we can see at the top, the currently downloaded repository has got version 0.8.9. Every time we download an esxDOS version, the previous version is retained, so that if we switch in the preferences, it will just switch back in the internal repository, so it won't need to re-download each time. HDFMonkey, by the way, is what powers all of this. So without HDFMonkey, this application wouldn't exist. HDFMonkey is essentially a command line program that will let you copy a single file or a single folder from Windows to virtual media. It will let you create the virtual media, format it, clone it, and it will also let you copy a single file only from the virtual media back to Windows. But it's relying extensively on using the command line to do it. So esxDOS Explorer sits on top of that, giving us a nice little GUI for doing so, and also adding a few other bells and whistles in for our convenience. So HDFMonkey has already been downloaded. If we wanted to check for an update, we can. In fact, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to run the Fuse esxDOS setup wizard. So when we run it, because this is the first time that we're running it, it will say the first stage is going to actually create a virtual disk file. If we had one already created and mounted, it would tell us that it would use that. For complete first-time installers, you would actually be prompted to locate your Fuse installation as well. So you get dialog, navigate to where your Fuse executable was, and then it would remember that going forward. So it's bypassed that because I've already done that previously. So I'm going to click OK, and it is now saying we're going to check for the latest version of the esxDOS online and update repository. So it's going to make sure that we've got the latest version. It's verifying that we've already downloaded the latest version. And again, the version it looks for is based on what we selected in the options. So if we said we were targeting an earlier version, then it will be looking for that version. So I'm going to click OK. And it now says we're going to install the latest version of the esxDOS from the local repository. So we're going to do OK. And you'll see now this is our virtual drive up here. And we've now copied the operating system onto it. And you'll see the next part here is we're going to actually set up the Fuse divMMC interface, which will involve flashing the virtual ROM in that interface. So we're going to click OK, and you'll see what it's done. It's actually opened Fuse up for us. And this is going to give us some step-by-step instructions for this one-time process, which will actually flash the ROM. So we can pull that to one side. We can still see our dialog here. So basically what this is telling us here is we click in the Fuse window, as per the on-screen instructions in Fuse, we need to hit the key, and once we hit the key, that's going to actually flash the ROM into memory. So if we click OK on here, this is now telling us that we need to write protect the divMMC firmware. So we've just flashed it. We don't want it to accidentally be overwritten. So what we need to do now is we need to go in the Fuse menu up to Options and down to Peripherals and down to Disk. And we need to make sure that the divMMC write protect option is selected. And then we can click OK. And then we click OK here. So the next part is the bit that's a little bit tricky. You've got to follow the instructions to the letter, and if you miss a step or you do close something prematurely, things won't work quite as they should. So the first thing we need to do is we need to go in the Fuse menu to the Machine menu, and we have to select Debugger. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to set a breakpoint in memory so that when we restart Fuse, it will go through all of the initial steps of the boot and apply settings from the divMMC firmware for esxDOS. But we're going to capture that snapshot at that point before it continues. And to do that, we're going to put a break at address 0. So we're going to type BR space 0 and then press enter. And we will see that it has registered the breakpoint. Once we've done that, we need to hit the continue button to actually tell it to continue. So it is now got that breakpoint ready for us. And we can now click OK and go to the next instruction. So again, we're leaving this open. We haven't been told to close this. We're going to go to the Fuse menu and we are going to go to the Machine menu, and then we're going to select Hard Reset. And then when prompted, we're going to click OK on the Hard Reset dialog. So we've done that. We're going to click OK on this. And now this is where we're going to be saving our snapshot. So we need to save this snapshot in Fuse as an esxDOS or SDX format file. This is going to get called with a special shortcut later on that has all of the setup for the virtual divMMC interface and will also mount your default virtual media for you. So we're going to go per the instructions to the File menu. We're going to go Save Snapshot, and we're going to select where we're going to save that snapshot. So, okay, I'm going to go to esxDOS and esxDOS Explorer, and then I'm going to save the file in here as esxDOS.sdx. So once I've saved that, I'm then going to go to the File menu, and I'm going to exit, and I'm going to exit Fuse, and then I'm going to click on here. Now it's going to ask me if I would like a shortcut to our custom setup. So I'm going to click OK, and then setup is complete. Click OK. So at this point now, if I go out to here, we should see there it is, Fuse esxDOS. So there's my shortcut. I'm just going to pin this to start, so I'm not having to go looking for it. And there we go. So if I go ahead and click on this now, this is going to open Fuse. You can see esxDOS is booting up, and it comes up, and this has got my little menu master system on it. So on this, we can hit Browse, and this will show you Bob Fossil's nice little long file name browser. So you can see on here, there's an additional file on here which holds information about the volume, virtual volume, that was created with the esxDOS Explorer. So that has all the information in, such as the volume size, the volume name, etc. So that basically gives us a blank slate. We've got an operating system on it, we can hold Shift and space. We can also, if we want to look at how to customize this menu master interface, we can just click on help, and there's all of our keys there. We can add new menu options in, and we might do one of those once we've got things in it. But for now, I'm just going to close Fuse, and let's copy something across into it. So I'm just going to go into a drive on my side. So this is on the Windows side, on the left side, and the right-hand side is my virtual media. It's inside my virtual SD card that Fuse is using. So I'm just going to go scrolling down here somewhere. Let's just go all the way down to, I've got some stuff in here for ZX Omni, which is my physical machine. And this is the backup of the boot drive. So let's just look into games, and we'll just find a couple of games here. I'm just going to pull something I was working across onto here. And I'm just going to go into there, and it's just called Bertie.tab. So I'm just going to drag the file across there. So that is now on there. If I wanted to, I could say, okay, let's pull, see what we've got here. We've got some games here that are homebrew. So we've got a couple of different directories in here for different 128 and 48K games. And what I can do is I can just copy that entire homebrew folder across if I want. So I'll just take that and I'll just drag it across. And everything's now copied across. We've now got the homebrew folder in there. And there's all of the games inside it. So that's all saved. I'm going to close out of that. And I'm going to go back into Fuse again. So those new files will now be inside the Fuse emulated esxDOS environment. So if I go to Browse, and then we can see in here now, I can go into Homebrew and select 128. And let's just pick a game and then pull it up. I'm just going to do a hard reset and then reboot everything back up again. And we've now got a nice esxDOS configured Fuse emulator, and we can copy files backwards and forwards using esxDOS Explorer. And let's just take a quick look at some other things. So in here you can see now under the HDF drive menu, this relates to the currently mounted drive, which is over on the right here. So we can, even if we didn't select in options to install something by default, we can install some additional things. And we'll pull it from the repository that is populated from the developers' websites. We can pull up the properties of the volume, which is where that metadata file comes in. It will tell you information about it. You can actually back up the drive. So if you're going to be doing something development-wise and you're thinking, I want to make sure everything's good, you can do backup and it will just rename everything with incremental backup numbers. You can also open other HDF files if you want to. We've already flashed the ROM wizard, but let's just say for some reason you wanted to switch. You could just run the flash ROM wizard without having to change anything else. You can check for updates of third-party control, third-party resources here. And you can also open the resources folder here. This shows where all of those things are downloaded and stored. Just the same as like under esxDOS. If you go to open local repository folder, this is the current version of the esxDOS that you were using in your emulation. And that's all of the esxDOS files in there as well. So that's just in the repository, not in your virtual media. And you can also open the HDF folder, which is where your HDF drives are saved, along with various other pieces that are needed to get everything up and running. Yeah, and I mean that's basically it. You can also go in here and you can rename files or entire folders if you want to. Let's say if I decided I wanted to rename the homebrew folder and just call it games, I can do that, and it will go through and rename it for me. So this is something that it's automating esxDOS to do things and adding other file system operations around it, extending esxDOS's functionality way beyond what its native capabilities are. So you've got things like that. So you can delete a folder, you can create a new folder, you can rename files or folders. And that's the same on both sides as well. You can create new folders and organize things on the Windows side as you're dragging and dropping and moving files backwards and forwards. So yeah, I mean that's basically esxDOS Explorer in a nutshell. And of course, once you've built your virtual media here, there's nothing stopping you putting an SD card into your computer and a nice formatted clean SD card, which will pop up in here. And then you could just open the SD card and you can do a quick Control A to select everything and drag the files across to the SD card. Then when you take that SD card out, if you've got something like a Spectrum with a divMMC future, you've already tested it and made sure everything all works with Fuse or whatever your emulator of choice is, and you know it's good to go. You copy the SD card, plop the SD card in your real physical computer with a divMMC or divIDE interface, and you're all set. You know exactly how everything's set up, and you can always back that up using this to back it up into a virtual copy that you can then still use with your emulator. And all of the instructions on this as well. There's under here you can check for updates for the main program. There's a manual in here. The menu master manual is basically just pointing you to the internal help on it. And then these are all of the web pages for the third-party developers without whom this product wouldn't be possible in its current form. So yeah, the manual is simply all as a PDF that comes installed. You can freely download it from the itch's site if you want to take a proper look at it and get a feel for it. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there for now. If anyone's got any questions or anything, feel free to reach out to the itch page and post any questions or feedback on there. I also share information on the esxDOS users Facebook group, where I'm also starting a periodic series of tutorials on using esxDOS and getting the most out of it.